ברוך אתה אדוני, אלוהינו מלך העולם, דיין האמת. I want to start by thanking everyone for coming. I know that people came from all over, and my family and I really appreciate so many people coming and being here with us. I'm going to start by calling up our dear friend, Rabbi Shmuel Golden, the former rabbi of Congregation Ahavat Torah, who was dear friends with my father for many years.
Eli asked me to say a few words, and it's very difficult. Albert was a very, very, very special man to all of us, and very much in our hearts. But I would suggest that the Hesped is written in the Parsha that was the Parsha of the last Shabbat of Albert's life. Because Parshat Vayetze gives us the parameters of a successful journey. It describes Yaakov Avinu running into the darkness, and the Torah states, Vayifga b'makom, and he encountered the place. At the end of the Parsha, after Yaakov has successfully survived the house of Lavan and is coming back to Eretz Yisrael, the Torah, using the same language, says, Vayifku uvo malachei Elokim. The angels of Hashem encounter him. And if you look carefully at the wording within the Torah, the change, the shift, is dramatic. When Yaakov begins his journey, he encounters the angels. They stand above him. When Yaakov finishes that journey successfully, he towers over the angels. They encounter him. If we look at Albert's life, at Abraham's life, if we see the accomplishments that he made during that life, one can clearly understand that now the heavenly hosts are encountering him. He towers over the Malachim. Albert came to me 30 years ago and asked me, Rabbi, we've been davening Rosh Hashanah, our Sephardic minyan has been davening in my home. Would it be okay if for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur we would have a room in the Beit Knesset? Just for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. Today, at Ahavat Torah, the most beautiful part of the shul, don't let the Ashkenazim know that I've said this, the most beautiful room and sanctuary in the shul hosts the Sephardic minyan. And the fastest growing population in Englewood's Jewish community today is the Sephardic community. What Avram created, what Albert created in our Beit Knesset, was an opportunity for us to grow together. That's what he wanted. in communities that, at a time when the Jewish community splits apart, when everybody starts their own Beit Knesset, Albert came to us and said, we want to be part of the community. But we want to be able to proudly have our own minhagim and our own tefillot. What it became, and I said this over and over again, was the jewel in the crown of our community. It would be the last place that I would take people when I would take them on a tour of the Beit Knesset. I would end with going to the Sephardic Minyan. I would say, now look, this is what sets us apart. What sets us apart is that we are a community that welcomes all backgrounds. What sets us apart is that we're living at a time when the walls have come down and communities that didn't know each other for centuries can finally be together, and we are doing that. With pride. With pride. What he did, however, was more than just start this Beit Knesset. And I find it particularly appropriate that the parameters of the journey in Vayetze are drawn by the concept of greeting, Vayifku Uvo. Because the way that Albert greeted you, the way that Albert spoke to you, the way that he brought people into the Beit Knesset was astounding, was amazing. Every time I would see him, Rabbi, haven't seen you. So good to see you. And a member of the community just this evening, told me that he visited him last week, and Albert was ill, and he was on the sofa, and he looked up and he said, so good to see you. And the whole conversation was about him. That was Albert. You can see it in the faces of the people who are here today. We will miss that greeting. We will miss that shalom. We will miss that smile and that ruach, that spirit. But we are so, so proud that it is communicated down to his children, now to his grandchildren. The same love, the same spirit. Sarah, together with you, with Albert, you created a beautiful, beautiful mishpacha. Look at them surrounding you today. We are bidding farewell, but with a very, very strong recognition that he will be with us in our hearts for years to come. He will be at every tefillah in the Beit Knesset HaSfardi. Every tefillah will have his spirit, will have his mark, that he will be in the hearts of his mishpacha and his friends for years to come. And we will constantly picture the scene that must be unfolding in the heavens. Vayifku Bo, Malachei Elohim.
Call upon my dear uncle, Rav Baruch Levi, my mother's brother.
אברהם בן סלחה, אחינו הגדול. הוא היה בשבילנו אח גדול, אח אוהב, ולעיתים קרובות גם אבא. אבא במקום אבי זכרו לברכה שעזב אותנו בדמי ימיו, כשהיינו עדיין זקוקים כל כך לו. ואברהם, הבן, מילא לעיתים קרובות את התפקיד הזה, לא באופן מודע או מכוון, אלא באופן טבעי. כי ככה היה טבעו. כל אחד שבא מקבל אותו בסבר פנים יפות. והרבה פעמים באנו אליו להתייעץ. באנו עם לב כבד, עם חששות, ספקות, ויצאנו בנחת ובלב נושם ושמחה, כי מצאנו פה אוזן קשבת, לב אוהב ועידוד לחוכמה עמוקה מאוד, חוכמת חיים שכל כך תחסר לנו. לפני קצת יותר משבוע התקשרתי אליו, זה היה הפעם האחרונה ששמעתי את קולו. קולו נשמע לי יותר טוב, יותר נוח, והוא גם כן היה מעודד עם מצב רוח יותר טוב. ותקווה מיוחדת פרחה תמידי, אמרתי, במיוחד שאמר לי שלאט לאט הנפיחות ברגליים הולכת ויורדת, והרגשתי, אולי סוף כל סוף אנחנו חוזרים לנתיב, חוזרים לחיים שהוא ידע כל כך לנהוג ולאהוב ולהעניק לזולת. אברהם אלבר, היום באתי ממרחקים כדי להיפרד ממך. ביטלתי על זה שום דבר. להיפרד ממך מדרכך האחרונה. להגיד לך שלום, וכל כך כבד להגיד שלום ולא להתראות. ובברמים תהיה מריץ טוב, מריץ יושר על משפחתך ועלינו דרכו ישראל.
Call upon Rabbi Mordechai Gershon, the former rabbi of the Sephardic Minyan and Congregation of Torah. He was very dear friends with my father. My father loved you very much, Rabbi Gershon. Please honor us.
When Mr. Albert Allen, Manoach, Abraham ben Kaduri B'Tzalcha Alav Shalom, when he walked into a room, there was a very special light, a very special warmth that radiated. For that matter, if Mr. Allen was in a room already and someone else walked in, the genuine welcome that he gave that person would generate with the very same warmth and light which was shared with that individual who had the merit to be in his presence. Approximately 8 years ago, when I first met Mr. Allen in the Sephardic Minyan of Congregation Ahavat Torah, which he founded approximately 35 years ago, I felt the warm embrace of his very special welcome. His true Sefer Panim Yafot, the way he would lock his arms with yours and walk side by side. It wasn't long before he helped me to be enabled to have the privilege of serving the community for the next 5 years that followed, during which I enjoyed his staunch friendship that continued for years afterwards, and observed firsthand the kindness with which he embraced everyone around him. Mr. Allen was a pioneer who was deeply connected to Judaism, to Yahadut, and his Sephardic heritage. As a young man, he left Egypt and spent some time in France, but ultimately settled in the United States. Wherever he traveled, Mr. Allen brought his commitment to Torah and his proud Sephardic heritage with him. He once related to me that on perhaps more than one occasion when he was on a family vacation, he noticed that there were many other Jewish families present, but there was no shul. I can't recall if this was in France. Rav Eli is shaking his head in the affirmative. Mr. Allen noticed there was no shul. How could it be? Jewish people on vacation, no synagogue to pray in? Hayitachim, yefshar liyot. Without hesitation, literally without hesitation, he arranged for a minyan to be formed, and subsequently a synagogue was established. It is no wonder then that he had a commitment to establish a Sephardic minyan in Englewood, New Jersey, which eventually blossomed into the vibrant Ben Arroya Sephardic Center of Congregation Ahavat Torah, often referred to by the Rabbi Emeritus, Rabbi Golden, as you just heard a moment ago, as the crown jewel of Ahavat Torah. Indeed, it was and is the crown jewel of Ahavat Torah, and that is thanks completely to Mr. Allen. With feelings of genuine afdut, true unity, the Sephardic minyan founded by Mr. Allen remained part of Congregation Ahavat Torah, even though there were opportunities to break away and form their own independent congregation. This created a beautiful and diverse community in which Jews of various cultural backgrounds all came together under one roof as they connected to Avinu Shebashamayim, Ribono Shel Olam. Just a short while ago, before we entered, I was conversing with one of our dear congregants who told me that in the earlier years, before I came to the shul, it was a known matter that all of the children, now of them, most of them are around my age, all of the children could not distinguish between Mr. Allen and their own grandfather. He was a Saba to them. He was the grandfather of all those children of that generation. With the same warmth that I and my family experienced upon moving into the community, Mr. Allen welcomed countless individuals who came to visit regardless of their religious background or affiliation. Many such individuals came to join the community and became members of the shul. Mr. Allen created a positive and inviting atmosphere that attracted many families to come, and ultimately, the little minyan that he started began to grow and flourish. Like Abraham Avinu, Abraham ben Kaduri Mitzalcha, his kindness and hospitality brought many individuals closer to Hashem. This was possible due to the encouragement and support of Albert's wife, Sarah. May Hashem bless her with arichut yamim v'shanim. Abraham and Sarah Allen established and led the Sephardic community with grace and were true examples of commitment to Judaism and to tradition. Mr. Allen, alav shalom, and Yibadla l'chaim tovim aruchim, Mrs. Allen's kindness and generosity was not limited to their community. He supported many institutions and helped to enable Yeshiva University to start a Sephardic Studies program and ultimately a Sephardic Community program. Yet perhaps most importantly, the Allens' commitment to Jewish education began at home. At a time when the yeshiva education was not as popular as it is nowadays, Mr. and Mrs. Allen made sure that their children would receive a Torah education. Although there are many wonderful communal accomplishments that Mr. and Mrs. Allen are responsible for, such as those previously mentioned, perhaps their most precious accomplishment is the beautiful family that they established. Their dear children, their grandchildren, and the amazing family that each of their children has gone on to establish and build on their own. Mr. Allen was so proud of his children and grandchildren who were truly cherished by him. During the last few years, Mr. and Mrs. Allen would spend nearly half of the year in Eretz Israel and half of the year in New Jersey. This would enable them to spend time with all of their grandchildren and also gave Mr. Allen a special privilege to fulfill the mitzvah of Yishuv Haaretz. Parenthetically, It also gave Mr. Allen more opportunities to speak with others in his native Arabic and French than he had in New Jersey. I asked him one time how he got around Eretz Israel not being fluent in Hebrew, and he assured me that between his Arabic, which was the Arabic of the prince, the king's Arabic, and the French that he spoke, he was able to get around without any difficulty. I'd like to close with the following observation. We are in the days between Parashat Vayetze and Parashat Vayishlach, stories of leaving and coming. The Midrash points out that although it is seemingly unnecessary for the Torah to tell us that Yaakov Avinu left Beersheba in order to travel to Haran, the Torah does so in order to teach us that when a righteous person leaves a place, the place that he left misses his presence. Our world, the communities in which Mr. Allen lived, in Englewood, in Yerushalayim, they are all lacking. His family and countless friends, we all have a void now. It would do all of us and the entire world around us a great deal of good if we would try to fill that void with the warmth, kindness, generosity, and commitment that characterize Mr. Allen. Moving forward to this week's parasha, Parashat Vayishlach, Yaakov Avinu returns home to Eretz Israel. Today, Mr. Allen, Abraham ben Kaduri, Alav Shalom, has returned home to Eretz Israel, and his neshama has returned to its source. May his legacy of memories, lessons, and example, personal, beautiful example that he led, his Sefer Panim Yafot, his warmth, his embrace, and his genuine character and Ahavat Yisrael give strength to his family and friends, and be a source of inspiration to all of us. Tehei Nishmatot Tzura B'Tzur HaChaim.
Call up Harav Boaz Mori, Rosh Yeshiva, Yeshivat Lev Torah, who very much loved my father, and my father always loved seeing him whenever he came, whenever he was here.
Without the introduction, I mean, like, many would think that I'm just standing here as your friend. But what Ravina said was not an exaggeration. I very, very much loved Mr. Allen. He had that personality, the dynamic personality that when you meet him once, you felt like you knew him for a lifetime. Rav Gershon mentioned that when he would come into a room, his presence was felt. Well, Mr. Allen, people knew him by Albert, but I only found out recently his name is Abraham. And he was a great tribute to his namesake, Abraham Avinu. He was the ultimate Machnis Orchim. And to the extent that Rabbi Golden spoke and mentioned how when he wouldn't see you for a long time, how have you been? I missed you so much. The first time I met him, he came to the Beit Midrash of the yeshiva, and he welcomed me so much I almost felt like I was the guest. And he was the Baal Bait there. He had such a presence, such a glow on his face, that he made everyone feel at home. Mr. Allen was a man of opposites. On one hand, I wouldn't say contradictions, just opposites. On one hand, he was a man that was larger than life, a public figure. He was known to have a relationship with big dignitaries. He was a very powerful man, a very successful businessman. On the other hand, when you speak to him one-on-one, he was the warmest, most personal individual you could meet. I was zocheh to be in his house a number of times in Englewood. And his house, you felt like you were walking to the house of Abraham and Sarah, which you were. But this was a different Gilgul of Abraham and Sarah. The welcome that you felt was one that you could not leave unaffected. He so proudly in his home told me the history of the shul, of the Sephardic shul in Englewood, how it started in their home and it started with the Yamim Noraim in their house, and he showed me how proudly he was a man of big ideas, but also the details were very important. So we were exactly the Aron Kodesh was, we're exactly the women were, where the men were, where everything stood and how everything took place. He was a person that was larger than life. It's hard to speak to him in past tense. When I was in the States last time, so I remember what he always told me. He always said, whenever you come to the States, you must call me. We'll get together. We'll go for lunch. We'll go for dinner. So I called him a week and a half ago. And unfortunately, he had to be in the hospital. I was not able to see him. I spoke to his wife, and he was undergoing tests. And I missed that last opportunity to see him when I was there. But Tzadikim Mitatam Yipim Chaim. Tzadikim, when they're not here, they're alive. I feel that Mr. Allen will always be alive. Often you think you know somebody, and you don't really know them. This happens a lot with Talmidim. You don't really know your Talmid until you meet the parents. You don't know someone until you meet the parents. And then when you meet the parents, you go, now I understand. Now I understand. So I thought I knew Rabbi Eli. I thought I knew him when I first met him. Baruch Hashem, he inherited many of the great traits of his father. His Achnasat Orchim, his personality, his Da'aga L'Tzibur on one hand, Da'aga L'Prat on the other. But then when I met Rabbi Eli's father, when I met Mr. Allen, I understood Rabbi Eli in a totally different way. I understood where it all came from. I had the great schutz before Rabbi Eli made Aliyah to be in his own home in Bergenfield. And there, Rabbi Eli Allen, so he would host the Shabbatim. People from all walks of life, the students from all different colleges, universities would come together, and he'd have this Shabbaton, which was almost like life-altering for the students that would come there. And I thought, wow, where did he get this from? So amazing. And then I met his father, and I understood. Everything became clear. These attributes don't come from nowhere. He's able to build on the great legacy that his father built. And build another Koma and another Koma. And everybody here, all the students that are here, certainly the relatives that are here, we've all benefited either directly or indirectly from the greatness of Mr. Allen. And now you're in the Shamayim, looking down. May you be a Meitz Yosher to your family, to your communities, to your friends, and to all Am Yisrael.
I'd like to call up also my dear friend and colleague, Reb Menji Kwawasser. Reb Kwawasser, you know how much my father loved you, and you're going to have to take a rain check on that lunch at Tzutzim Mitzvian for another lifetime, but if you would please come up.
The world yesterday lost a giant, a father, a grandfather, a leader, a smile so bright, and a lover of Zion and our nation. I'm but a neighbor who has simply taken notice of Mr. Allen's shaloms when he arrives, his warmth and compassion. I was essentially just a recipient of his love whenever he would visit Ramat Beit Shemesh, and immediately I felt his affectionate nachas and encouragement for everything the yeshiva does and hopes to accomplish. I immediately became Mr. Allen's friend because he not only let me into his life, every time he saw me, he wished to take me and my wife out to eat, just because he loved people. Tonight is the 15th of Kislev, the exact middle of the month in which we celebrate Hanukkah. There are 3 ways to light the menorah. The basic mitzvah, as 1 candle per home. Mahadran, 1 candle per person. And Mahadran Min HaMahadran, 1 per night, representing the increasing miracle. The one who lights the candles says 2 blessings. The one who just sees those lit by others says 1. All who have seen Mr. and Mrs. Allen together understand the blessing we recite at a wedding of Misamech Hatan im Hakala. They were a couple who cherished each other and greatly respected each other. Mr. and Mrs. Allen saw my wife and I walking on the street one day in Teaneck, New Jersey, from inside a restaurant. They ran out of the restaurant and insisted we join them. What we witnessed was tremendous. The sushi was ordered. We actually only had a few minutes. We were waiting there to go to a wedding, all dressed in attire, and then the story emerged. The details of the story of their lives, fleeing from Egypt, were amazing and miraculous. But witnessing the way that each of them took turns speaking, appreciating each other's words and additions, was equally amazing. I always draw attention for young couples to the idyllic goal, to be the couple holding hands on the boardwalk, and not the reverse of the husband running ahead not to get hit by the swinging pocketbook. Mrs. Allen, you and your husband have absolutely lit the candle of your home, the candle of Birkat Habayit, of Shalom Bayit, the candle of love and togetherness, a light for all of us who see, can also bless such a Bayit Ne'eman B'Yisrael. However, the Allens did not suffice with the mitzvah of the home. They made sure to light the Mahadran level as well. Mr. Allen had the incredible talent of instantly making everyone feel loved. His love for his family and friends was so unconditional and was able to appreciate everyone for who they were. I've only known Mr. Allen for the past couple of years, but his connections were so deep, it felt like decades knowing each other. A man of so many achievements in business and community development could have easily had an air of confidence that would threaten over and overwhelm the best of men. And yet every shalom came with a full smile and genuine appreciation that you could see in his eyes. Every encounter concluded with a surreal feeling of being appreciated and encouraged. It's so hard as a parent and grandparent to view all one's offspring with only eyes of love and acceptance, with a heart of support. I am certain that it is specifically because of this approach that his children have all followed in his legacy as proud Jews, representing a rich and profound heritage. The halakha states that one should take care to ensure each candle's ability to be an independent light. The Allens have lit the candle per person, have inspired countless souls, and made sure that they are each individually and independently radiating incredible brightness. However, there is a third level, Mahadran Mina Mahadran, to light per night. To remember that the light continued to burn, and as such the miracle grew exponentially every day that transpired. The Allens internalized this message and felt the obligation to keep the miracle growing eternally. After a harrowing journey from Egypt's expulsion of the Jews, the Allens ultimately made their way to Englewood, New Jersey. That could have easily been the home to a quiet life where they could set up their personal stability. However, the needs of the Jewish people burned inside him, and Mr. Allen set out to help the needs of Am Yisrael and ensure that the Sephardic heritage did not fade away. His single candle burned. His family's candles were all lit. And now he was ready to build the Sephardic Kehillah in Englewood, New Jersey, and become an active board member at Yeshiva University. Every step he took in fleeing an oppressive regime and managed to live was forever ingrained in Mr. Allen's psyche as a miracle that could only be properly recognized through action, through caring about our future. Albeit with such a gentle and warm tone, Mr. Allen's words were always meaningfully passionate in a way that underlined the miraculous experience from which they were formed. Mahadran, Mina Mahadran, ever-growing candles with an unending fervor to ensure Am Yisrael's success and progress, from one family to hundreds, from one candle to a supernatural number of candles, the number 8. Mr. Allen fulfilled this highest level. We dearly miss you, Mr. Albert Allen. Your honesty, your values, your kindness, your commitment to Am Yisrael, and the love of your family. Mr. Allen, Hashem lit your candle, helping you survive through an arduous journey and uncertain times, and you in turn lit hundreds. Yehi zechrecha baruch, nishmatcha tiyeh tzura b'tzura chayim. Bila mavet lanetzach, macha Hashem Elohim dima me'al kol panim, v'cherpatam lo yasir me'al kol haaretz, ki Adonai diber.
When our family first made Aliyah, Rav Boaz brought me and introduced me to a very special Kihila, very special Rav Gilka Damari. When I first came into their Beit Knesset, they all welcomed me. I felt immediately at home, and my father also felt immediately at home, like we were with old friends and family. I would like to ask our Gil Damari to please come say a few words.
כתוב, ואברהם זקן בא בימים ואדוני ברך את אברהם בכל. אני חושב שהברכה הזאת שהקדוש ברוך הוא מברך את אברהם, יכלת לראות שאברהם הגיע, לפחות איך שאני הכרתי אותו, ראית ברכה, ברכה ששורה על אדם, זה לא פשוט. במיוחד בחיים שאנחנו נמצאים, לראות אדם מלא ברכה, מלא חיים, מלא חיות, לא רק עם עצמו, אלא משליך על כל הסביבה שלו. זה אנשים מאוד מאוד מיוחדים. הנפילים היו בארץ, אני חושב שרבי אברהם אחד מהנפילים, הדור של פעם, אנשים שהולכים ומתמעטים מהעולם שלנו, עולם שכולו מלא בעסקים וגשמיות, עד שרואים בן אדם שיש לו חדווה לארץ, לאנשים, לאמת לאמיתה, והוא ראה. ההיכרות שלי איתו הייתה תוך שנייה, אני מתאר כמו שכולם סיפרו כאן, כל הרבנים שלפניי, זה לא דבר חדש שאני אומר, אבל זה ממש היכרות תוך רגע של חיבור, וזהו, הוא נמצא פה ואנחנו מכירים כבר הרבה זמן. זה באמת דור של פעם, מלח הארץ, קוראים להם שעשו את העלייה וכל המסעות בחיים שלהם. אנחנו בתור ילדים קטנים לא מכירים את זה. כמה עברנו כבר בחיים. עליהם עברו תלאות על תלאות, והחיוך לא זז מהפנים שלהם. והמסירות והתמימות והדבקות במטרה, תמיד זה היה נר לרגלם, לא עניין אותם שום דבר. אחד כזה היה אברהם. תמיד הוא הזכיר לי את אבא שלי, זכרונו לברכה. איש אדמה, איש שעובד, איש שמחפש לעשות טוב, איש שרוצה שיהיה טוב, שיהיה שלום, שיהיה שמח בכל הארץ, שמח בכל יהודי ויהודי. זה נעלם לנו, הדמויות האלה נעלמות אחת אחרי השנייה. אבל הן משאירות חותם. כמה פעמים היה בבית מדרש שלנו הקטן, 3-4 פעמים אולי, אבל השאיר את החותם שלו. המקום שלו בצד, תמיד כשאמרו שהרב אלן למשל נמצא, תמיד כשאני מסתכל לשם הצידה, אני זוכר את הפנים שלו, מחויכות, כולו מחוייך ושמח. כאילו מה שתבקש ממנו הוא ייתן לך, אין שום מחסום. אם נגדיר יהודי, אני חושב שאם אפשר להגדיר יהודי כמו שמגדירים יהודי, דרך לב, אז זה אבא. לא זכיתי להכיר את אשתו ואת כל המשפחה, אבל ברוך השם זכיתי להכיר את הבן שלו. כמו שהרב בועז, שדרך הבן, דרך האבא, אפשר לראות את הבן, והפוך. זה האור הזה שרבי אברהם העביר לילדים וגם לנכדים, הרגישות, כל כך עדינה שלו, שהוא יכל לראות כמו שדיברנו קצת בערבית, קצת באנגלית, וקצת בעברית גם. אבל זה היה חיבור, זה לא היה צריך לדבר איתו הרבה כדי להתחבר. חבל על משתכחים, לדעתי בין המשתכחים, קשה אבל מה נעשה דרך העולם? שליחות שהוא עשה, הוא עשה אותה, שליחות שהקדוש ברוך הוא שלח אותו פה לעולם כדי לעשות אותה, הוא עשה אותה עם כל הלב שלו. יהי זכרו ברוך שבעזרת השם יגן על המשפחה מלמעלה, עם המיליציה של המשפחה ולכל הקהל ולכל רמת בית שמש ולכל השכונה ולכל מי שהכיר אותו, ושזכותו תעמוד לנו בשמיים ולמשפחתו. נחמה ברוך דין להגיד נחמה בעזרת השם.
My first Shabbat in Ramat Beit Shemesh, I was sitting with Reb Boaz, and I told him I'd like to daven Sephardic. He said, well, we have a Sephardic minyan right here in the building. And it was then that I had the great privilege of meeting my very dear friend and teacher, Rabbi Meir Abu Chatzera. Harav, אם יכול לדבר כמה מילים, בבקשה.
הלב בצער, גם על הפרידה, על ההפסד של כולנו, שאדם כל כך שלם, שלא צריך הרבה להתבונן בשביל להבחין בגדלות שלו. וגם על הצער של המשפחה, אני מכיר את רבי אליהו ומכיר את שאר המשפחה, לא זכיתי. אבל לפי הבן, הענפים דומים לשורשים, לפי הבן רואים מה המעלה של האבא. היה לי איזו שאלה ששאלתי את מורבי, את האבא שלי, הרב רפאל אבוחצירא, שנורא הטרידה אותי. סיפרו לי על הפטירה, אני זוכר שבשבת, במוצאי שבת, נפרדתי מרבי אליהו עם תקוות שיהיה בשורות טובות, שהכל יהיה בסדר. הוא סיפר לי, אבא לא מרגיש טוב, כל כך התפלל עליו. אמרתי לעצמי, ודאי שיהיה לו ניסים. זו משפחה עם המון זכויות. אנחנו רואים את ההתנהגות של רבי אליהו בתוך הקהילה, כלפי כל אחד ואחד. אבל סיפרו לי שהוא נפטר, וקרתה תופעה שאני לא הבנתי מה קורה איתי. עד כדי כך שהתקשרתי לאבי שהוא גם רבי ושאלתי אותו מה קורה כאן. הרבה פעמים חוויתי כאלה מציאויות, לצערנו, אנחנו עוד לא הגענו לגאולה השלמה שבילה מוות לנצח. ויש אנשים שהכרתי והם נפטרו. מהרגע שסיפרו לי שהמנוח נפטר, אברהם בן סלחה, כל הביקורים, אמנם זה היה ביקורים בודדים, בשבת קודש שהיה מגיע אלינו, זכורים לי מול העיניים בצורה יוצאת דופן. אני זוכר את הטמפרטורה של היד שלו כשהוא לחץ לי אותה. את המאור פנים, את החיוך, את החיבוק, כמו שאמרו פה. כאילו אני מכיר אותו 20 שנה. איזה אהבה, איזה טוב לב. שאלתי את אבי, אמרתי לו, קורה כאן משהו שאני לא מבין אותו. זוכרים, מצטערים, אבל זה מוחשי מדי. רואים, אני רואה אותו מול העיניים, אני רואה את החיוך שלו. אני רואה את האהבה שלו, למה זה ככה? הוא אמר לי את השם של הספר וחבל שלא רשמתי, כתוב בספרים הקדושים. שאדם שבאמת אוהב יהודים מתוך לב טהור, מתוך אהבה אמיתית, הוא יכול ברגע אחד להשאיר רושם על אותו אדם שהוא אוהב אותו, כאילו הוא מכיר אותו 20 שנה. הוא חותם בו, הוא חוקק בו את האהבה שהוא אוהב אותו, כי זה אמת, כי זה מבפנים. הוא באמת היה לו מידה של נתינה, מידה של אהבה, כי הוא היה לו את הגדלות הזאת, כמו אהרון הכהן, היה לו את החסד הפנימי. הוא באמת אהב כל אחד, הוא לא סתם השאיר עליי כזה רושם במפגשים כל כך בודדים. כתוב בגמרא במסכת שבת, כל המוריד דמעות על אדם כשר, הקדוש ברוך הוא סופרן ומניחן בבית גנזיו, דבר שלא רשום על אף מצווה אחרת. יש דבר שהקדוש ברוך הוא שם בכספת שלו, אנחנו לא מבינים, זה נשמע מדי מופשט, אבל זה דברים רוחניים וגבוהים. הקדוש ברוך הוא שם, יש לו מקום של הדברים שהכי יקרים לו. ומי שמוריד דמעות על אדם כשר, הקדוש ברוך הוא לוקח את זה ושומר את זה, זה הדבר הכי יקר לי. זה הדבר הכי מיוחד בשבילי. כל אחד רוצה שיהיה לו כאלה דמעות שהקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור עליהם ויחבב אותם ויקר אותם. אז נתבונן קצת במאמר הזה. כתוב כל המוריד דמעות על אדם כשר. מה זה מוריד? למה לא כתוב בגמרא כל הבוכה? מה זה מוריד? מוריד זה פעולה שפועלים אותה. בכי זה בדרך כלל דבר שקורה לבד. מה זה כל המוריד? מוריד זה נשמע שאתה מביא את עצמך להורדת הדמעות. למה זה ככה? אם כתוב בגמרא מוריד, אז זה מוריד ולא שירד לבד. מילים בגמרא מדוקדקים. וכן כתוב על אדם כשר. למה לא כתוב כל המוריד דמעות על תלמיד חכם, על צדיק, על אדם קדוש? למה דווקא אדם כשר? אז באמת לא נעריך, כתוב בספרים הקדושים. שהמושג של כל המוריד דמעות על אדם כשר, שהקדוש ברוך הוא לוקח את אותם דמעות ושם אותם בבית גנזיו, זה לא אדם שפתאום רואה צער, רואה חיסרון, רואה פרידה, ומתחיל לבכות. זה אדם שמביא את עצמו לידי הבכי, הוא מסתכל על אותו אדם כשר ואומר, כמה אפשר ללמוד ממנו, כמה זה כבר יהיה נדיר, כמה שלא נשארו כאלה אנשים, משרידי דור דעה, ממש ממש משרידי דור דעה, כשהייתי רואה אותו, הייתי מתמלא ברוגע מסוים, וזה היה מזכיר לי את כל הדורות הקודמים, אנשי אמת, אנשים של טוב, אנשים שלא מעניין אותם שום דבר רע. איך מגיעים לבכי הזה שמתבוננים בבן אדם, כמה אפשר לקבל ממנו, כמה הוא היה טוב, כמה הוא היה אוהב, כמה הוא היה בעל מידות טובות שאנחנו עם עבודה של שנים לכאורה לא יכולים להגיע אליהם. כשאדם חושב ומתבונן במעלות של הנפטר, וגורם לעצמו להורדת הדמעות כי הוא מרגש את עצמו והוא מתבונן במעשים של הנפטר. זה דמעות שהקדוש ברוך הוא שומר אותם בבית גנזיו, זה דמעות שהקדוש ברוך הוא אומר, את זה אני מחפש. אני מחפש שאדם ייפטר ויעלה לעולם האמת, אבל הוא ישאיר פה נכס, הוא ישאיר פה אנשים שילווה אותם המידות הטובות שלו. אנשים שהתבוננו במה שהיה לו וימשיכו את זה הלאה בעולם הזה, ובאמת אין היום בהרבה אנשים להתמודד. האנשים מהדור הקודם, הצדיקים המיוחדים האלה, זה אנשים שכל אחד מהם שהולך זה חבל להבדין ולא משתכחים. זו הזדמנות שלא חוזרת. וידוע שלמה כתוב אדם כשר? אדם כשר מסמל מידות טובות. מידות טובות. צדיק, תלמיד חכם, זה תורה. אדם כשר זה אדם שהוא מושלם במידות, בטוב שלו. ידוע, כתוב בספרים הקדושים, שתורה לא עוברת בירושה, קדושה לא עוברת בירושה, שום מעלה רוחנית לא עוברת בירושה. אבל מידות טובות ועדינות ואצילות, זה כן עובר בירושה. אנחנו רואים את זה. כל אדם שהוא מיוחד ומושלם, ורואים שהוא כולו נתינה וכולו אהבה, בסוף רואים שזה בא באמת מהבית. אנחנו רואים את המשפחה, שוב פעם, אני לא מכיר את כולם, לא זכיתי, אבל רואים את רבי אליהו. לפעמים פשוט להתרגש. כמה כוחות צריך להאיר פנים לכל אדם, לתת לכל בן אדם? זה דורש המון כוחות. כמה כוחות צריך לאהוב כל בן אדם באמת, ולראות אותו כלפי הבחורים בישיבה. הוא אוהב אותם כמו בן יחיד. זה לא סתם, זה מידות. זה מידות, כמובן כל בן אדם יכול לקנות כל מידה. אבל כתוב בספרים שמידות זה עובר בירושה, שאני ראיתי את האבא, שראיתי את האהבה שלו, את הטוב שלו, הבנתי מאיפה כל האוצר המיוחד הזה, מאיפה כל הטוב שאין לי ספק שהוא נמצא בכל המשפחה. כי הענפים דומים לשורשים. כתוב בגמרא שרבא, כשהוא נפטר, הוא ביקש מהתלמיד שלו, שאחים בהספדה, כך הוא אמר, תחמם בהספד הלבבות של האנשים, כי התם קאימנה. פירוש בארמית, שם אני עומד. אז הפירוש הפשוט, שם אני עומד, אני נמצא בהספד, הנשמה שלי נמצאת. לא רק הגוף. הנשמה שלי נמצאת, אני נמצא שם. אז תחמם בהספד, ואז מה? מסבירים בספרים הקדושים שהנפטר עולה לעולם האמת, אז יש לו הרבה מה לתת. וזה מתמלא באנשים שמתבוננים במידות של הנפטר, ורוצים לבוא ולזכות לקבל את המעלות המיוחדות שהיה בו. הם זוכים לכוח מיוחד, באותו זמן הלב פתוח, באותו זמן מורק שפע מהנפטר לכל הסובבים, וכל אחד שרוצה יכול להידבק במידות שלו ולהמשיך. אז הוא אמר לו, אני נמצא שם. תחמם את הלבבות, שיהיו כלים, שיקבלו ממני. וכתוב בספרים הקדושים עוד הסבר, כי אתם קאימנה, הוא אמר לו, שם אני עומד, אני בעולם האמת, אני כבר עומד, אני לא יכול לעשות מצוות, ואני לא יכול להתקדם. אין שכר כבר. הדבר היחיד שיעמוד לי ויעלה אותי יום יום כשאני נמצא למעלה, זה שאנשים ילכו בדרכי, וימשיכו את הטובות שהיו בי, וככה אני אקבל שכר יום אחר יום. יש לנו הרבה מה ללמוד מהנפטר. באמת, עד עכשיו שרק מלערער בהתנהגות שלו, באהבה שלו, יש לי בני דודים בחוץ לארץ שאמרו לי, תשמע, דיברתי איתם אחרי הפטירה ומכירים אותו. אמרו לי, תשמע, אני רוצה להגיד לך שאני מתבונן עכשיו בבן אדם, זה פשוט ספר של מוסר שלם. בהתנהגות שלו, בתודה שהוא אומר, באהבה שלו, בחיבוק שהוא מחבק כל יהודי, בשלמות שלו, זה היה משהו נדיר. זה מה שהם מספרים לי, ואני ראיתי את זה בראייה אחת, לא היה צריך הרבה להתבונן. אז בעזרת השם אנחנו נתבונן במעלות שלו, ונצא מפה עם המידות הטובות שהיו בנפטר, ויהי רצון שהנפטר יעמוד למליץ יושר, רבי אברהם בן סלחה, על כל המשפחה, שירפא את שבר ליבה, שהקדוש ברוך הוא יחיש את הגאולה, ואת ביאת המשיח, ואת בניין בית המקדש, ושיהיה נחמה אמיתית למשפחה.
Just a few days ago, my father told my brother and my mom in terms of who he wanted to speak. And I'm sorry to share this with you, but he said that whatever rabbis wanted to speak at his levaya should be allowed to speak. As was mentioned, my father loved rabbis, he honored them. I'm going to ask my dear friend and colleague, Rabbi Yoshua Gerzi, if he could just say a couple of words, and that will conclude the rabbinic speeches, and then we'll just hear from some family members.
I'm not sure what there is to add. I'm going to say, I think, a little bit more of the same, and that is what it looks like to be a human being. It was mentioned a couple of times how in the previous generations, what they went through, the Sephardim, the Ashkenazim, what they went through to get here.
I remember driving a number of times with one of my wife's uncles. And driving up to Sfat, I remember we passed the sign along the road that says Sfat. And he would start to cry. My wife's family came from Libya, they had to escape. And to come to Eretz Israel and to see a sign for Sfat was a sign that we're still living, we're here. A road sign to Sfat that moves somebody to tears. For us in the next generation, it's difficult. No, for me it's difficult. I see a sign to Sfat, I see a sign to Yerushalayim. I'm not moved to tears. But we're speaking about a generation who they knew what human dignity and human majesty should be expressed as. And I met Mr. Allen 3 times. And majesty, the majesty of man, the dignity of man was imprinted on his face. Something I was thinking about when Rabbi Mari was speaking. And I'll end with this. That is that Yaakov goes through a fight with the angel. And after he has a fight with the angel, after the challenge, he gets blessed. There's a very big lesson here. And this is something that I'm going to take away from now, as I'll show, and that is resilience. Resilience. All odds are against us. Things aren't going our way, we have to escape, we go through challenges. Yet, who has the last laugh? And I stand here before a group of people, I stand here before a tzaddik, he has the last laugh. He's living, look at us. Not just children, not just grandchildren, Talmidim, Talmidei Talmidim, friends, people who met Mr. Allen, and I feel the same thing. I've known for 30 years, I've known for 50 years, and I'm only in my late 30s. Who has the last laugh? Resilience. Resilience, never, ever, ever give up. It doesn't matter what's in front of you. It doesn't matter if all the odds are against you. It doesn't matter. Live a life of authenticity. Live a life of majesty. Live a life of dignity. And I don't know the rest of the family so well, but what I know of my beautiful, sweet, kind, compassionate friend, Rabbi Allen Jr., is that he lives a life of resilience, and all the family, children, grandchildren, Mamish, keep on living. All of us here, keep on living. Don't give up. Fight, and keep on fighting. And the bracha always comes. The bracha always comes.
My father would have liked me to acknowledge many, many great personalities, many people that are here. I'm sorry it only take a moment or so, but that's just for those that knew my father. He would not have accepted that there were rabbis in the room and they weren't properly given kavod or mentioned. So I just want to acknowledge and thank Rabbi Mordechai Machlis, Rabbi Moshe Mula, Rabbi Eugene Kwalwasser, Rabbi Goldstein, all of my beloved friends from Yeshivat Neva Torah, Rabbi Siv, Rabbi Natanel, Rabbi Paltiel, Rabbi Dudi. I'm sorry if I'm missing people. Rabbi Citron, you have been a backbone of support to me and the family throughout this whole process. When I first told you, you just said, whatever you need, it's done. And I know that when you say that, it made me comfortable to know that everything would be taken care of. So I thank you on behalf of all of us from the bottom of our hearts. You see Rabbi Nassan Sachs, many other rabbis, Rabbi Jeff Schrager. Please forgive me, I would like to call you each out, but obviously, you know, we have a limited time, but I want to thank you for coming. I also see that our dear family friend Fred Horowitz and his son Paul are here. My father very much loved and appreciated you. I'm going to ask now my dear sister Alana to come up and say a couple of words.
Thank you everyone for coming. Just want to say that my father would have loved to see you all here. He would have loved to listen to your stories and tell you all of his stories, because the thing that he loved most in life was connecting to people and bringing joy to them and pouring his love into them, as everyone said, brightening up people's lives with his smile and his warm greetings. And it was for everyone. People that he met in the Knesset, the people he met in his building, the dry cleaner, the hotel concierge, everyone got that warm smile. And I can remember countless times him grabbing someone's hands and saying, "Oh, you're so nice, thank you so much." Because he really liked to recognize what was great about people and make them feel good about themselves. And in general, bring happiness into people's lives and create an environment for people to be happy. There's so much that, so many qualities, innumerable qualities that are so difficult to even touch upon, or of course something that all of us shine so bright for all of us was his kindness and generosity. He was an ocean of kindness, and he gave in a way that was not because he had to, and not for the way it made him feel, but he gave because that was who he was. It was a part of him, part of essentially who he was as a person was how much he could give to people. So I just want to tell a story for those of you that didn't hear it yesterday, that to me really gets the core of the way that he would give. So a few years ago, we took a family vacation to an island called Curacao. Yeah, it was one of our best vacations. We had a great time there, beautiful island. And there was a whole bunch of us there, so my father hired a bus and a driver to drive us around. His name was Wendell, this driver, and he took us to all these different places. We had a great time. And along the way, we stopped for lunch on the beach, and we're all sitting down and eating, and Wendell was down the beach a little way, and then my father motioned him over. He said, "Come sit with us, come eat with us." And this guy was blown away, really touched to be invited to sit with our family, and by someone that he didn't even know, but my father was so welcoming that why would anybody that came with us, why wouldn't they sit and join us and share with us? So then on the way home, we drive a little bit, and then Wendell realized he left his shoes on the beach. So my father was like, "Okay, we can go back and get them." And Wendell said, "No, I don't have to get them." And then later, a little bit along in the ride, my father said, "Okay, we have to stop by a supermarket to go buy some food for tonight." And we stopped by there, and then my dad walked all over the store and found a pair of shoes, and he bought them for Wendell and brought them onto the bus. And I think Wendell almost cried. He was so surprised to see that someone would be so considerate and in such a natural natural way that came for him. So the end of that story is that a few days later, Wendell took us to the airport, and there was a snowstorm in New Jersey where we were flying back to, so we weren't sure if we were going to be able to get home. We didn't really want to go home, but and Wendell sat there at the airport with us for 5 hours while we were waiting to see, just to make sure that if we needed a ride home or if we needed a ride back to the hotel, that he was there for us. And I would say that that is that was the recurring story of my father's life, where people were touched by his kindness and his generosity and inspired them to give that forward and pay back to him and to other people. And so I would ask that we keep that in our hearts and remember my father and remember how we can bring that type of joy and light to the people around us, whether it's by giving someone a warm smile or by helping people in any way we can and bringing that light into the world in his name.
Havi Bachron, I'm going to call on my beloved wife, Becca.
I apologize for speaking for so many distinguished rabbis. I'll explain to you why. As many of you know, I left Israel Tuesday night with Sarah and Ora and Ema. And we wanted so badly to come and see Dad one more time. And we didn't quite make it. And as we're flying back today, I know that we have just a few precious moments where the Shema is still ashore to the body, and didn't get to tell my father-in-law thank you one more time, and I really wanted to. So I'll forgive a lot and tell you what I really wanted to tell him. When I had a tremendous split to marry Eli, it's not just that Mom and Dad, you gave me your amazing son and I get to share his life. But I got a whole other family at the same time for the past 25 years. I've had not just one, but 2 loving families. And Mom, and including you, because everything had, Dad and you built together. And I really want to say thank you for it. When you said welcome to the family, it wasn't just me that welcomed to the family. It was my grandparents that came and stayed in your home. It was my grandmother came and you made her feel so welcome in your home. It was my parents who always felt welcome and who are crying along with us in Pittsburgh. My brothers, my whole family. I want to say thank you for my place of being a daughter-in-law in the Allen family. It's a really good place to be. It's amazing to be an in-law in this family. I have a really good company. Al, sitting there with his parents. We love you guys so much. Part of the family, Stacy. We're watching, and the entire Richmond family. You love Dad with all your heart. Gil, Steve, accompanied Dad from the airport on his final journey. All the in-laws were there in the family because we feel part of the family that we created. Do you know what it's like to raise your children with Meme Nono's house? It's the best place to be. It's a candy land when you tell your children, we're going to go to Meme Nono's house. Their faces light up. And it doesn't matter where Meme Nono's house is. when they moved to Eretz Yisrael, it was also Mimi Nono's house in that apartment too. And you always want to be in Mimi Nono's house because all your favorite people are always in Mimi Nono's house because it's your family. And every child that was married into the family and every grandchild feels welcome and they feel like they can just be themselves and they feel just joy. Like it's amazing to be there. It's the best thing. It gives my children so much stability to have a family behind them wherever we travel. We uprooted ourselves from America, we came here, and we have this entire family. You feel like even when you're uprooting yourself, you still have the stability because you have all your family behind you. And said the family, I traveled even to family vacations. There was no Nono's house in Curacao, in Hans Kuhn, and in Eilat. Everywhere you go, like, they gave us, they constantly were giving us so much. From the moment that we got married, like, just in giving and giving and giving and giving. And never once, you don't ask anything in return. Like, all you ask is, are you happy with it? Are you happy? If you're happy, then it's good. If you're happy, it's good. And even in the way you left us, Dad, you gave us, I think, even something amazing, because I thought you guys, you did such a good job to see Dad's children, each one with the confidence to do their own special skills, but working together, everyone just doing everything that they had just to be there for Mom and Dad and just giving back. And that was the testament of what you guys have built together for all these years. It's not a house, it's not like, it's so much more. It's not a palace or like a skyscraper. It's like the Great Wall of China. It's built to last forever, and you can see it from Shemayim. And Dad, Mom, I love it very much. And I'm so thankful to be a part of it and to have it. We're gonna meet again for you, Dad. We're gonna miss you so much as we do that. Thank you.
There's so much more to add, but I think that those that knew my father and those that didn't know him now know him a little bit better. I want to share a story from when I was younger. When I first got my driver's license, my first car that my dad got me was a 74 Mercedes, which was only 4 years older than me, parenthetically. And I kind of knew that, or I thought that we could afford something more, you know, and was wondering, you know, why did my dad give me this, you know, kind of jalopy car? It wasn't until years later that I realized that Dad really was teaching me how to appreciate things. Often when we get things in life, we don't necessarily appreciate them. We take so much for granted. We get gifts that we don't earn, and we don't really have as much awareness of how important things are. And so I realized that my dad was just trying to teach me how to appreciate things. The Gemara tells us that life is like ships going out and coming back to sea. When a ship goes out to the ocean, we don't know what direction it's going to go in. We don't know what's going to happen to that ship. We don't know if it's going to get lost. We don't know if it's going to go off its way. But when the ship comes back to port, we have clarity. We know what mission was accomplished. My father lived an amazing life. He lived to see 12 beautiful grandchildren. He was the rock to so many people. I don't really know anyone else in the world that had so many people that loved him. We had the great fortune of having him for many years. We're grateful to Hashem that at the end he didn't suffer. He really didn't want to suffer. He didn't want to be sick. He was surrounded by my mom and my siblings. And we had such a zchut to be able to be with him at that time. Mom, you're such a devoted wife to him. You're a wonderful mother to all of us. Everything that we've achieved, everything that Dad achieved was because of your support. Becca, you're the best. I thank you so much for everything. My wonderful children, Avrami, Sarah, Oren, and Ima. I love you very much, and you know that Nono so treasured you. My brother Mikey, who is watching on the stream with his wife Stacy and their children, Colette, Ali, and Spencer. My brother Mikey, who is a tech guy, business person, miraculously transformed himself into a superhuman nurse. For the last few days, Mikey was with my dad virtually 24/7. He waited on him, he cleaned him, he took care of him. I'm in awe, Mikey, of how much you did for Dad. You made him feel comfortable. You treated him with every degree of dignity that a person could possibly accomplish. My sister Aviva, you inherited all of Dad's charisma and all the love that people have for him. You are also the rock to all of us in the family. You always know that we can rely on you. Your husband and my dear friend Al, you know how much Dad loved you. The children, Mayan, Dalia, Uriel, Avital, you were so fortunate to spend so much time with Nono. You got to FaceTime him, you got to spend so much time living right next to him, and you all know how much he loved you. And Alana, who was so awed again by your words, even hearing the second time the story, I was still brought to tears. And Liel, my father would not have allowed me not to thank people for coming, especially his family. His sister Gracia and Joe are sitting Shiva in Brooklyn now. And my mother's siblings are here. Judith and Nisim. Judith and Nisim, you got to spend so much time with my dad. Nisim, he loved you like a brother. My uncle Ezi and his wife Solange. My uncle Andre and his wife Solange, who took care of the family here in Israel in our absence. My uncle Baruch and his wife Garda, Ani, and of course my Aunt Colette, who I need to say, all of you, I don't need to tell you how much my father loved you. You knew. Vous savez combien il vous a aimé. Il n'y a pas de question, il n'y a rien que je peux vous dire. I want to thank Gil and his father Steve. Steve is a close friend of the family. We asked him to be the shomer. Not only did he immediately come as soon as we asked, he actually rode with Dad to the hospital, to the airport. He wouldn't leave Dad alone. I want to thank my very dear friend Chaim. Chaim, you were like another son to my father, you know that. He loved you very much. And Reb Dov, who was also my dear friend and Talmud, who was anything that I asked him, he took care of within seconds. And indeed, all of you that are here, as friends from Englewood, forgive me that I don't mention you by name. I see a few more Rabbanim in the back, Rav Odesser, Rabbi Asher Uri. Most of all my beloved Talmidim, I'm so sorry that your night off was kind of put into a real downer type place. I'm going to try to negotiate with Rabboz to get you another night off, don't worry. I really thank all of you for coming. I want to thank the Chaver Kadisha and all the fine individuals that are here. I was so worried, you know, those of you that live here in Eretz Yisrael, you know the way things kind of go. So I had imagined any number of things that could go wrong and hiccups, so on and so forth, but Baruch Hashem, everything worked out, especially Yisrael and the whole staff here. You've been so kind. I want to tell my Talmidim and my friends and all of you that are here, your support is what enables us to go on. Oh, I also want to thank all of my cousins from France, tous les cousins de la France. We have, Baruch Hashem, a very large family. They all flew in from France. All of my cousins from Israel that are zochet to live here, they also came. And the extended family that came from far and near. Again, I don't need to tell you how much my father loved you. You know. And that love will continue within our family. I just want to conclude with perhaps a Dvar Musar, some kinds of words of action. As you heard, my father was the type of person that tried to make every person feel special. When he would see somebody that didn't know anyone, someone who was lonely, he made sure to cheer them up. I would like to request that my father can perhaps live on within each one of us by us taking on this fine quality. I know for those that are at Yeshivat Lev Torah, the staff, the Talmidim, I know that this is the quality that is exemplified by each and every one of you. And I would ask that instead of being passive, perhaps we are more active, to actively look for opportunities to make another person feel good about themselves. To look for opportunities to see, where can I make shalom? Where can I make peace between two people that are perhaps not as close as they should be? To constantly look for opportunities to bring joy, to bring love, to bring Hashem's presence into the world. And that is my humble and simple request that I try to live every day, that I know so many of you do as well, but to do it also in my father's memory. Once again, I really want to thank each and every person that's here. I love you all. My family thanks you so much. And we look forward to spending many smachot together. My father, Alav Shalom, would also thank you. We're all eternally indebted to you. Thank you. Tien Shmato, Tzurab.
פרק ט"ז בתהילים, מכתם לדוד שומרני כי חסיתי בך, אמרת לאדוני, אדוני אתה טובתי בא עליך, לקדושים אשר בארץ עמה ועתידי כולכם ציווה, ירבו עצמותם אחר מר ובנאסיף נזכם מידם ובנשא את שמותם על שפתי. אדוני מנף חלקי וחוסייתה תומך גורלי, הבלים נפלו לי בנים עמם נחלת שפרה עלי. אברך את אדוני אשר יעצני אף לילות תסרוני כליותי. קיוויתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד פנימיני ולמות. לכן שמח ליבי ואגל כבודי על בשרי ישכון לבטח. כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול לא תיתן חשיפך לראות שחר. לא תהייתי אורח חיים שובע שמחות את פניך נעימות בימינך נצח.
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה, וילמדי ורחילותי וימליך מלכותי, ויצמח פור גני וקרא משיחי, וחייכון ובימכון וחיי בכל בית ישראל, בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. ישתבח ויתבר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שבקדושה בריחוק אלא מכל ברכתה שירתה תשלחה בנחמתה דאמירן בעלמא אמרו אמן. יש להם הרבה מן שמיה חיים וסבא וישוע ונחמה ושזבה ורפואה גדולה וסליחה וכפרה ורווח ועשה לנו לכל עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו וברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן.
לפי מנהג ירושלים, כל יוצאי חלציו, הבן, הבנות, נכדים ונכדות, לא ילכו אחר המיטה. אתם הולכים מקדימה, הוא יראה לכם. ריקי, הנכדים והנכדות, תלכו איתו. הבנות, איפה הבנות? סליחה, אתם נכדות?
עכשיו.
מעיין. הפח נשבר ואנחנו נמלטנו. ויהי נועם אדוני אלוהינו עלינו מעשה ידינו כוננה עלינו מעשה ידינו כוננהו. יושב בסתר עליון בצל השדי תלונה נאמר לאדוני מחסי ומצודתי אלוהי אפתח בו כי הוא יצילך מפח יכוש כדבר רבות וברתו יסך לך ותחת כנפיו תחסד שנאה וסוחרה מיתו לא תירא מפחד לילה מחץ יעוף יומם מדבר באופל יהלוך מכתב ישוד את צהריים מכל מצדך אלף עורב הבא מימינך אליך לא ייגש רק בעיניך תביט בשילומך שאין תראה כי אתה אדוני מחסי עליון שמת מעונך לא תאונה אליך רע ונגע לא יקרא באוהלך כי מלאכיו יצווה לך לשמורך בכל דרכיך על כפיים ישאונך פן תגוף באבן רגלך על שחל ופתן תדרוך תרמוס כפיר ותנים טבעי חשק ואפלתהו אסגבהו כי ידע שמי יקראני ועיניהו עמו אנוכי וצרה חלצהו ואכבדהו אורך ימים אסביהו והרהו בשועתי עקביה בן מעללל אומר הסתכל בשלושה דברים ואין אתה בא לידי עבירה דע מאין באת ולאן אתה הולך ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון מאין באת מי תקרא סלוחה ולאן אתה הולך למקום עפר רימה ותולע ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית וירבה להשיב אפרו ולא יעיר כל חמתו. יש מי שיאמר קדיש בבקשה?
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה.
אמן.
ועל מעדי ברכי ולכה וימליך מלכותי ויצמח וקנה ויקרב משיחי.
אמן.
וחייכון וביום יכול וחי לכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן. וסבא וישועה ונחמה ושזבה ורפואה וגאולה וכפרה ורווח והצלה לנו כל עמו ישראל ואמן. עושה שלום וברחמה ויעשה שלום עלינו ועל ישראל ואמן.
אמן. יושב בסתר עליון בצל השדי תלונן אומר לאדוני מחסי ומצודתי אלוהי אבטח בו כי הוא יצילך מפח יכוש מדבר הבות בעברתו יסך לך ותחת כנפיו תכסה צינה וסוחרה מיתו לא תירא מפחד לילה מחץ ירוק יומם אבל באופן יעלו מתקרב לצהריים מכל מצדך יתה אדוני מחסי עליון שמת מעונך לא תאונה אליך רעה ונגע לא יקרב באוהליך אם מלאכיו יצווה לך לשמורך בכל דרכיך על כפיים יישאונך פן תיגוף באבן רגליך על שחל ופתן תדרוך תרמוס כפיר ותנין כי בחשק ואפלתהו אסגבהו כי ידע שמי יקראני ועיניהו עמו אנוכי בצרה חלצהו ואכבדהו אורך ימים אשביעהו והרעהו בישועתי אקביה בן מהללל אומר נסתכל בשלושה דברים והנה אתה בא לידי עבירה דע מאין באת ולאן אתה הולך ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון מאין באת מכיפה אסורך ולאן אתה הולך למקום עפר רימה ותולע ולפני מי אתה עתיד ליתן דין וחשבון לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישתיק וישבע להשיב עבור ולא יעיר כל אחד
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ויעלמדי ורחירותי וימליך מלכותי ויצמח פורקני וקרא משיחי בחייכון ובימיכון ובחי דכל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהא שמי רבה מברך לעלם לעלמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי קדושה בריחו לעילם מן כל ברכתה שירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן יהא שלום רבה מן שמיה חיים וסבא וישועה ונחמה ושזבה ורפואה וגאולה סליחה וכפרה ורווח והצלה לנו ולכל עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו, הוא ברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל, ואמרו אמן.
כאן אנחנו נקרא לכם עוד מעט. Gib mir. Geh zu Fuß. אברהם בן כדורי וסלחה כי מלאכיו יצווה לך לשמורך בכל דרכיך הבן יכול להתקרב, הבן והנכדים. רק רגע, לחכות רגע. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. והוא רחום יכפר עוון ולא ישחית, וירבה להשיב אפו ולא יאיר כל חמתו. זהו, אפשר להניח. אפשר להניח. הלאה, הלאה, מי עוד רוצה? הלאה, אפשר להניח. הלאה. זהו, אפשר להניח. הנכדים גם יכולים. איפה הנכדים? בסדר, אפשר להניח. אפשר להניח. מקרוב, לא צריך מלמעלה. מקרוב. זהו, אפשר להניח. בסדר, אפשר להניח. בסדר, אפשר להניח. מולי, תניח. מקרוב, לא מרחוק, רק מקרוב.
לא היה. זה טוב.
איפה? מכתם לדוד שומרני אל כי חסיתי בך אמרת לאדוני אדוני אתה טובתי בל עליך לקדושים אשר בארץ המה ואדירי כל חפציבם ירבו עצבותם אחר מרו בלסיך נזכם מדם ובלסה את שמותם על שפתיי אדוני מנת חלקי וחוסי אתה תומך גורלי חבלים נפלו לי בנעימים אף נחלת שפרה עליי אברך את אדוני אשר יעצני אף לילות יסרוני חיליותיי שיוויתי אדוני לנגדי תמיד כי ימיני בא למות לכן שמח ליבי ויגל כבודי אף בשרי ישכון לבטח כי לא תעזוב נפשי לשאול לא תיתן חסידך לראות שחת תודיעני אורח חיים סובה שמחות את פניך נעימות בימינך נצח קדיש
יתגדל ויתקדש שמי רבה ביעלמא דיברה חירותי וימליך מלכותי ויצמח פורקני וקרם משיחי וחייכון ובימכון ובחיי כל בית ישראל בעגלה ובזמן קריב אמרו אמן יהא שמי רבה מברך לעלם עולמי עלמיה יתברך וישתבח ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתהלל ויתהלל שם דקדושה בריחו לעילם מן כל ברכתה שירתה תשבחה דמנחמתה דאמירן בעלמא ואמרו אמן יהא שלום רבה מן שמיה חיים ושבע וישועה ונחמה ושזבה ורפואה גאולה סליחה וכפרה ורווח והצלה לנו לכל עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן עושה שלום במרומיו וברחמיו יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל עמו ישראל ואמרו אמן.
אמן. רב אברהם בן רב כדורי וסלחה בשם החברה קדישה בשם המשפחה הקרובים הידידים והמלווים אנו מבקשים ממך סליחה ומחילה שמא חס וחלילה פגענו בכבודך הן בטהרה בנשיאת המיטה או בתיקון הקבר אנא סלח לנו כי אין זו אלא שגגה החברה קדישה נהגה איתך כמנהגי ירושלים עיר הקודש ויהנה מליץ יושר עבור משפחתך, קרוביך וידידיך ועבור כל כלל ישראל בכל תפוצות ישראל וייתן השם ויבולה המוות לנצח ומחה השם אלוקים דמעה מעל כל פנים ובא לציון גואל במהרה בימינו אמן. לך בשלום ותנוח בשלום ותעמוד לגורלך לקץ.
Ladies and gentlemen, my sisters and my mother are going to be sitting in Katamon. The address will be provided. Well, it's Elazar Gadol, 12. Apartment 1. I'm going to be sitting Shiva in Ramat Beit Shemesh at our apartment 36 over 11 Nachal Ein Gedi until Monday, and then Monday I'll join the rest of the family. Bezrat Hashem, after this we're going to have our Vit in the Ulam in about 10 minutes or so. And I again want to thank everyone so much.
כשנצא מחוץ לחלקה נעשה שתי שורות גברים לניחום אבלים לבן, את האישה והבנות מנחמים בלי שורה.